Well, boys, glad to be back in the same room. I guess we should start. Where else are we gonna go? Afghanistan, folks. If you thought we could spend 2 weeks evacuating tens of thousands of people with like basically no one dying and not have ISIS, or shall we say, another collection of letters, have their say in the matter, you were wrong. Welcome to Benghazi 2.
Yeah.
Was it like 10 or 12 American soldiers got blown up at the Kabul airport today? And get ready to have hearings about this for the next 4 years.
Every time. See you get out. You know, they drag me back in, Jack.
Very, very convenient appearance by an antagonist from 2 or 3 seasons ago.
Yeah.
Particularly an antagonist who always. The heads of their operations in every country always seem to be taken out of prison by American forces.
That's weird.
Just as it happens, just a bad coincidence.
The K in this case, it's ISIS K. The K stands for Khorasan. And if anybody remembers...
The Khorasan group.
The Khorasan group, a group that existed for approximately 2 weeks, long enough to justify a bombing campaign, and then was never heard from again. They're dabbing on us, folks.
They're back.
Wow. We're getting dabbed on.
Yeah, we thought we kicked them into the Sarlacc pit. Damn, we really thought John Kerry got them. He did not.
So yeah, basically all of the Republican, I've seen like at least 4 or 5 Republican politicians today call for Biden to be impeached over this.
Yeah, no, they're going hard for it, and they're going to have a lot of support. I mean, it has been startling watching the media that was absolutely in the tank for Biden. You cannot argue that that's not true. You can say whether it was deserved because Trump was a threat to the Republic, whatever bullshit you want to say. The fact is the professional media was propping his ass up like Weekend at Bernie's the entire campaign, and then in the first 6 months of his presidency, look at our big boy passing a bipartisan infrastructure bill. We're so proud of him. It's so good. There's so much good stuff in here. As soon as he gets out of Afghanistan, wow, this is a stunning betrayal, and perhaps even a sign of cognitive decline. Now, after this late fucking date, you're going to start talking this shit? It really shows what the actual agenda that matters is.
Yeah, we saw him like a month before this when he was at that CNN town hall go, the thing with you just got to go to the FDA and say, we're trying to go to, if you want to go into the room where everyone is, you can pack a lunch. And he was talking about like getting the vaccine approved for 12-year-olds, and they were like, no, that's a good point, sir. And now apparently 25th Amendment time.
Coming up after the break, a one-on-one interview with Tara Reid.
Yeah.
I will say that they certainly got some ammo in that Biden press conference that just happened.
I didn't watch it.
Joe is looking... Joe's not looking robust. At one point, he just glitched out for, I'd say, a solid 20 seconds.
Okay.
Just didn't say a word, just kind of looked wetly up, kind of looked like he'd forgot where he was.
He noticed the storm was coming. Okay? That's all I'm going to say. Watch out.
Joe is the storm.
Yeah. No.
I mean, this is the one thing that Trump literally never did in 4 years that these Q dipshits were waiting for, which is actually go against the fucking deep state.
Trump literally in his like 3rd week in office went to the CIA and was like, you guys can do whatever you want. Yeah.
So, I mean, to the point about like, it is astonishing because Joe Biden is entirely a creation of the media and the people they serve. He's their guy.
Yeah.
He is their guy. And it's amazing. Like, this is just him. This is him ending one war.
Yeah.
This is just him ending one of our empire's like money laundromats.
Yeah.
And like, they should be fucking thanking him for. They should be grateful for him to do this shit.
We're betraying our allies, and look at all the violence that's happening. All that violence that happened for 20 years that we spent 0 moments talking about.
A combined 5 minutes over 2020.
Yeah. And the other big talking point is that they're like, oh, why did we have to do this now? Like, for the last year, not a single American soldier died. Like, how could you say this wasn't sustainable? It's like, no shit, because the peace deal that like Trump signed with the Taliban,
Ed was too much of a fucking bitch to fall through on.
The reason there weren't any attacks on U.S. troops is because the Taliban were like, okay, well, yeah,
you're leaving. You told us you're leaving,
right,
and Trump was too much of a fucking bitch to pull the trigger. He was going to do it as an election stunt, and they scared him into holding off. And then it took fucking Irish Joe to actually follow through because he doesn't care anymore.
The deep state didn't even threaten Trump's family. They were like,
Yeah, he
we're
wouldn't care.
gonna pull the plug on the Regis hologram that you talked to, and he was like, no.
I've just been thinking about Trump again for two reasons. Like, obviously, because these soldiers that just got killed in a suicide bombing, like, expect to know every detail of their lives.
Oh, yeah.
Expect to have, like I said, between 9 to 25 congressional hearings and independent commissions about this. But I was just remembering back, we talked about it on the show before, but those soldiers that got killed in Niger in like the first 4 days of Trump's administration, and they were just like, they didn't even recover the bodies.
Nope, just left.
They were
them
left to be
get
eaten by
eaten
vultures. And I'm just reading like the Guardian account of like the follow-up where it said like he called the widows and made them cry because he told one of the widows over the phone that her husband, quote, knew what he signed up for.
Yeah.
But it hurts anyway, and it made me...
But even a media that hated Trump didn't really talk about it that much because we don't really want to get into, hey, why are we in Mali in the first place? These aren't questions that we really want to focus on.
Oh yeah, if you think they're not covering Afghanistan, wait till you see the combined numbers on AFRICOM operations. But yeah, I mean, there will be endless tears about the 12 military members. But I think they're still counting it, but it was 90 Afghans, I think.
Yeah,
and just nothing.
Just one more hit on Trump here. He's doing the media rounds today, and this was from an interview with Hugh Hewitt just today or the other day, and he says he's speaking, of course, about Biden, and he's like, look, it's a Sleepy Joe. Like, this never would have happened. This never would have happened if I was
because you wouldn't have pulled out because the handsome generals would have done a puppet show for you, and you would have gotten scared.
So Trump says, and they respected us. They respected me, but they respected us, and I don't think the Taliban wasn't watching because ISIS is tougher than the Taliban and nastier than the Taliban. And ISIS was watching, and then they didn't exist anymore. And we took out the founder of ISIS, al-Baghdadi, and then, of course, Soleimani. Now, just so you understand, Soleimani is bigger by many, many times than Osama bin Laden. The founder of ISIS is bigger by many, many times. Al-Baghdadi, then Osama bin Laden. Osama bin Laden had one hit, and it was a bad one in New York City, the World Trade Center. But these other two guys were monsters.
Wow.
Oh man.
Sorry, it was 2 hits in New York City, Trump. I mean, let's be serious. Those are 2 big singles
and a
that he
cruise
dropped.
missile into the Pentagon.
Yeah. But I love that he is claiming he's attacking Biden and claiming this glory for himself by basically saying Osama bin Laden, he wasn't such a bad guy.
He was fine. He was good.
He wasn't large. Okay, these other guys, they're very big.
I thought he would love bin Laden because bin Laden was very tall.
He's a
true.
big guy.
Yeah, but like, do you think this is... I read a bit deeper into this when he said one hit in New York City, which is amazing. It makes him sound like he's talking about like a boogie with a hoodie.
Yeah.
He had one big song in the summer of 2018. But like, did you think like the first week in, the CIA was like, hey, like, listen, we did like hit the Pentagon with a hologram with the, like, cover up this like stem cell trafficking ring or whatever, and he was like,
he's letting it slip.
you can't tell anyone. And he just accidentally took credit away for the Pentagon attack from Al Qaeda. That's what I'm reading into it.
I just more on the war that journalism is waging now against Irish Joe. This is one of my favorite tweets from this morning. This is Josh Rogan. I don't know if you guys remember that guy. He's like
He's Seth's younger brother.
He's a lesser Eli Lake.
Yeah. Josh Rogan is like he's like the R2D2 to Eli Lake's Luke Skywalker.
Exactly. He says Josh Rogan tweets here, the DC national security establishment is not trying to, quote, punish Biden for ending the Afghanistan war. For 2 weeks, the singular, all caps, focus I've seen is hundreds of people trying desperately to save their Afghan friends' lives and mostly failing.
Well,
damn, sounds like they should have never been in charge of any of that. Sounds like you should fucking boot them home.
Yeah.
Sounds like they fucking suck at the one job they said they were supposed to do.
Emphasize failing there.
My comment here is they evacuated 50,000 people last week. How many friends does this guy have? It's like Josh Rogan does not even have friends who are American. I do not believe he has that many Afghan friends.
None of these people do.
And like, also, isn't that a little bit unethical for like journalists and national security people to be like, this is all about my friends?
My homies.
Yeah. My chosen family.
We don't have friends. We have family.
Yeah.
I need them here for Friendsgiving.
Once again, I'm turning to the New York Times to illustrate, the forces arrayed against Mackinac and all the seers and experiencers out there who are, they're channeling the Joe Biden right now.
Yes.
We are, going to war with the deep state. And the several arrangements of letters that currently blew up 12 soldiers, all of our brave soldiers in Afghanistan. This is, of course, Ryan C. Crocker. Could not have the Dickensian perfection in the naming of this guy here. He was, of course, the ambassador to Afghanistan under President Barack Obama. Just like the pure snake that he is, now coming in to stab Joe in the back here. Why Biden's lack of strategic patience led to disaster.
Yeah, not enough patience.
Strategic patience.
If you'd only waited another
20 years.
Maybe 40, maybe 60.
Strategic patience. Ryan Crocker writes, as Americans, we have many strengths.
No, wrong.
I'll stop you right there. I'll stop you right there, buddy.
Yeah.
Just pure weaknesses, buddy.
Yeah, that is the Snopes meter is going crazy right now.
But strategic patience is not among them. We have been able to summon it at critical times, such as the Revolutionary War and World War II, both of which took about 1/10 of the length of the Afghanistan War.
Had progress, a forward momentum, a point.
Yeah, exactly. Where, for example, Congress did not threaten to defund the war effort if it wasn't wrapped up by 1944. Because that was World War II.
That was World War II.
Not Afghanistan.
God, these
buddy.
psychos. World War II, man. It was the crucible that all this shit, national security state was built in. All these structures were built in, and it's the only frame of reference that makes sense of American foreign policy.
Because it's the only one that can be like defended.
Yeah.
And like on any like strategic or moral level, and also it's the only one we've won since then.
One, my God.
Well, the Gulf War maybe, but like does that? that was
come
like that was.
on.
I mean,
That
those
was
don't
a
count.
setup.
You might as well
Yeah.
put that in the same
No, the Gulf War
category
was
as
a
Panama.
The Gulf War was a setup. It doesn't count.
Yeah.
That was some Baudrillardian shit. That didn't actually happen.
He says, in Korea, nearly 7 decades after an inconclusive truce, we still have 28,000 troops.
Yeah, that's
okay.
Great idea.
Great.
We should do that. That
Great.
makes sense for us.
Awesome.
Good idea.
But our patience is not the norm. And it certainly has not been on display in Afghanistan as the world watched the Taliban storm into Kabul. As the enormity of the events in Afghanistan this past week sinks in, the questions start. How did this happen? Yeah, that's a good fucking question to start asking. How did it start? Well, it happened because we invaded Afghanistan in 2001.
I mean, a lot of fucking nerve for this guy, a career diplomat.
He was Obama's ambassador to Afghanistan.
Last was ambassador to Afghanistan. How did this happen? I don't know. What do you think, fucker?
How could we not have foreseen it? Why didn't Afghan security forces put up a fight? Why didn't we do something about corruption? we are the corruption.
God. We're the swamp. We are the fucking swamp.
Everything
we went there.
touch turns to shit.
We went there and we're like, why don't we make this into Florida? Why don't we turn this fucking land into Jacksonville?
We helicoptered into Afghanistan on top of pallets of $100 bills and said, who are the biggest disgusting perverts and pedophiles and murderers you have who will not blink an eye about collaborating with a demonic foreign power to rule over this country?
Yeah.
I can't believe that they fucking took some public money.
You remember when
I wonder what the fucking contractors did.
You remember during the Iraq War when the New York Federal Reserve
Yeah.
like literally did a cash transfer of $9 billion
gone.
in cash from the New York Federal Reserve to Baghdad
where'd it
on a
go?
military C-130 cargo plane.
it's gone.
As soon as it touched down at the Baghdad airport, let's just say certain organizations are just like, oh, wait, could you sign for this? Nope. And then it just gone.
Like Fidel
just
Castro
disappeared.
and the $1 trillion bill.
Yeah, it just disappeared.
Give what back?
It says, the list goes on. There is one overarching answer. Our lack of strategic patience at critical moments, including from President Biden. It has damaged our alliances, emboldened our adversaries, and increased the risk to our own security. It has also flouted 20 years of work and sacrifice.
There was no work.
There was no work.
The fact that it collapsed overnight proves that there was no fucking work.
I mean,
If you are arresting me after T-boning this minivan, you are flouting the 10 stop signs that I stopped at perfectly on the way there.
this this whole op-ed should just be called "I was shit." I was shit.
We tried being the country that we were supposed to be. If we were to go back to Afghanistan, which we wouldn't, it would be with a healthy attitude, which would not happen.
The United States' objective in Afghanistan has always been clear.
Oh, really?
Has it? Really?
Someone should have let us know. That might have helped
Maybe the
strategic
ambassador.
patience thing.
To ensure that the objective has
All right,
always
let's
been
hear
clear.
it. Hit me.
To ensure that Afghan soil
Right.
is never again used to plan attacks against the American homeland.
Okay, that's stupid then, and I don't care. And no one did for
'Cause,
like 5 minutes. It was about getting Bin Laden, and then it's like, oh, he's gone. Oh well, we're just gonna hang around, and then we just
then, like-
never heard about it again until today.
And if that was the strategic objective, then like that implies that like going forward in the future, if there is any soil on the surface of the planet that like a terrorist is like
that's the
currently
thing. How
thinking
hard
about,
is it to plan a terrorist
thinking
attack?
about
for-
attacking America.
Are we
what
going to
do you need
occupy?
to do?
Are we going to occupy like Berlin? Are we going to occupy Egypt? Are we going to just anywhere
There
any of
are
these people
cities-
go?
there's-
Are we going to go to Saudi Arabia? Are we
There are
going to invade
cities-
that?
There are cities in Syria that are run by Al Qaeda, as in they are the governing structure of the city. Modern cities with like communication infrastructure and access to international airports and shit. Why the fuck would you go to a goddamn cave in the middle of the Hindu Kush?
It says it was not that it was not about nation building as an end in itself, or building a new democracy, or even regime change. I mean, this is I hate to use the word. This is gaslighting.
This is literally.
this is
But what he's saying though,
gaslighting.
the implication of that, we're not going to actually build a sufficient governing structure to stand on its own and not become a terrorist breeding ground. That means we just have to be there forever.
Yeah.
That means
No,
we
yeah,
have to be there
that's exactly-
forever. This like when Max Boot said
That's
Indian,
called strategic
Indian wars.
patience.
It's like, yeah, that's what this means. It always means that like we're there now. And this is just where we are. Like we're still in South Korea, like we're in Germany, like we're in Italy, like we're in Japan, like we're in the fucking Philippines.
I will give this guy credit for at least being open about that and not being like the people who are like, or relatively open, not being like the people who are like, no, it's fine to leave. We just did it the wrong way.
Yeah.
I mean, I will. He won't fully come out and say literally there forever like everywhere else, but as close as a guy like this will ever get.
It says, the message from the Bush administration to the Taliban after 9/11 made this clear. If you hand over al-Qaeda leadership, we will leave you alone.
No,
they literally
wrong.
offered
They
to
offered
do
him
that.
up.
They
Incorrect.
literally made that
Lie.
exact
Lie.
offer
Lie.
to the Bush administration. And then, oh yeah, we will leave you alone.
Nope, incorrect.
The Taliban chose to fight instead.
Nope, wrong. Lie.
Well, I mean, we chose to fight them, and
Yep.
I guess we see the results.
Yeah.
They won.
Yeah.
Well,
They wanted it more.
once the Taliban were defeated, the slight asterisk on that clause right there, our fundamental mission of ensuring that that Afghanistan was never again the base for an attack on the United States did not change.
Yeah, that's like saying like that the Atlanta Falcons defeated the Patriots in the first half of the Super Bowl.
But the means to that end became much more complex, and the development of those means would require patience. When I arrived at Bagram Air Force Base in January 2002 to take charge of our... Oh, this guy was also working for the Bush administration as well. I forgot about that. When I arrived at Bagram Air Force Base in January 2002 to take charge of our reopened embassy, Afghanistan had nothing. Essentially no government, no institutions, no army, no police. What it did have at Bagram Air Force Base was a giant torture dungeon. Just a yawning vacuum. And vacuums in the greater Middle East tend to be filled by actors who do not wish us well. Hamid Karzai had arrived in Kabul just a few days before me as chairman of the Afghanistan Interim Authority. He and I spent a lot of time together in those initial weeks. He never seemed discouraged by the enormity of the task in front of him. He did not hesitate to make decisions, many good, some not so much. He had a vision of a stable and secure Afghanistan that threatened no one. It would be a long process, he said, but he had the patience for it. So did we, at least initially. Helping Afghans create a stable, open society could also be the best way to further our own national security objectives. This concept had strong bipartisan support on the Hill, as a wave of congressional visitors to Kabul would attest. And that's the other thing, is like I've seen a lot of people lamenting that like after 9/11 the country was united to defeat a common enemy. Now we're more divided than ever. It's just like this problem was caused by how
Yeah.
united this country was
Yeah,
after
no.
9/11. That's not a good thing.
Anytime there's national unity, we all unify to do the dumbest thing
dumbest,
possible.
worst-
every
Worst
time.
possible
Most
outcome.
monstrous
Yeah.
thing.
This is
And like what they're lamenting is that like, you know, the the nonpartisan consensus about foreign policy is breaking down.
Yeah. It's now an actual political football. The war on terror framing is politicized, and if that's bad news for them, because there really is nobody who wants to take that on. Like both parties pretend to be now like they're against interventions, and that's bad news. So it'd be a shame if a bunch of bombs went off in the middle of a very high profile evacuation.
I mean, I have seen that like polls last week show that a majority of Americans, like by 60%, still were in favor of the withdrawal. After another week of the media coverage of this, it's down to 45%.
They're going to keep chipping.
And it's like 40% are opposed to the withdrawal. And that is under like the unified field theory of like media programming of like how people get their news in this country. And they still can't get a plurality of people to be against the withdrawal. But definitely Biden's approval rating has ticked down because of this. He has taken a hit on this.
He's underwater for the first time. He's snorkeling with Kamala.
But the thing is, though, like, if we want to talk about this in like crass horse race political terms, if he decides or if he is going to run again in 2024, which is an open question. I mean, I think maybe he did this because he had never had any fucking interest in. I mean, he never thought that would be a realistic option for him, given his brain and body.
Yeah.
I mean,
I really wanted it, to be honest with you. I was really looking forward to it. It would have been, the chills and spills.
But like for Biden and like the Democrats, which are like anyone who runs for president, I'm sure like this will be hung around their neck for certain. It was good of him to do this now rather than wait a couple of years, because I guarantee you by the time the next 2024 election rolls around, people probably won't care about this.
God.
No.
I mean, I don't think they really care about it now. I just think like when they're asked the question and like the most, like, do you support Joe Biden's decision to kill American soldiers?
Yeah, exactly.
To humiliate the United States military? Like, yeah, like you'll get the answers you want.
Exactly. People don't even remember the shit Trump did in 2017, even with the Democratic effort against him in 2020. It was just like the last year of hits for him. Granted, a bit of that was because of COVID, but like for better or for worse, we have a very short memory in this country now.
So what we always say, like, you'll be angry about something next week.
Yep. Yeah. Same thing I tell people when they yell at Matt Brunig. And I'm always right.
Skipping ahead a little bit, he says, clearly, there were also problems. I mean, and then like in contrast to the girls' schools he just talked about, and that everyone in Congress visited and loved so much. But clearly, Stephen A. Smith's voice, clearly, there were also problems. Chief among them, corruption. Karzai and the later President Ashraf Ghani presided over governments where corruption was rampant. When vast resources are poured into a country without established institutions and rule of law, corruption is likely to be a significant byproduct. The country he's talking about is America, by the way. The country without good institutions or a rule of law, that's us. This is not to excuse corrupt officials. It is to recognize the ubiquity of the problem and our role in it. Look at our own history as instructive. Corruption was endemic in New York, Boston, and Chicago through much of the 19th and 20th centuries. It took us time to grow the institution.
Once again, this is anti-Irish bias.
Yes. This is. Oh God, I'm so mad right now. The racism that we face, the community in this country. There's still New York, Boston. That's coded language.
It absolutely is.
That's coded language through much of the 19th and 20th century. By the way, New York State politics is insanely corrupt in the 21st century.
No, yeah. The only difference now, instead of like, a guy giving you $20,000 and then your cousin works at his company, is now that you're like making that deal with like Foxconn.
Yeah, no, it's like New York in the 21st century is like Andrew Cuomo literally disappears the bodies of 12,000 elderly people who died in like fucking abattoirs owned by a campaign donor versus Boss Tweed. You would get that turkey on fucking Christmas.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Your cousin could get that road contract.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the money was trickling down.
Chicago used to be so corrupt, like Rahm Emanuel fixed it. We would never have something like 2 consecutive mayors covering up police murders.
He goes here, it took us time to grow the institutions and legal structures that would eventually make corruption the exception rather than the norm. Look, I'm sorry, like even in his like Bill the Butcher like fantasia of what New York politics was like in the days of the 5 points, I'm sorry, it was nothing like fucking Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Okay? It was not like just scores of people being killed every day and like
Not in an insurgency against the state.
Yeah, it was violent or whatever, but like Lower Manhattan didn't become like the world's greatest exporter of opium at the time.
I think this guy literally watched Gangs of New York.
Yeah. There he goes here. And that returns me again to the central theme, time and patience. As our own history attests, societal change is a slow process. Witness the 11 years of our new country spent moving from the Declaration of Independence to the Constitution. Even then, issues like slavery were papered over, only to erupt in a civil war 74 years later. Okay, this is the timeline he's talking about here. That's 74 plus 11, which is...
20 is...
Yeah, exactly.
20, what's that? What's 20 years?
The Civil War analogy is amazing because that's like, that's like literally a war that the good guys ended up kind of losing.
Yeah, in the long run.
Yeah. Overall, like, they didn't get to keep slavery, but they certainly got to keep their way of life.
Yeah.
And also, while the Civil War was going on in this country, England could have easily just been like, look at the chaos and instability that happens when our empire leaves a country. They can't get it right. They need King George's time and patience. He goes, even blah blah blah. Yet we seem unable to appreciate that other societies will find the challenge just as difficult, and even more so if the engine of change is a foreign army. I recall that comment attributed to a captured Taliban fighter from a number of years ago. You Americans have the watches, but we have the time.
What commander was that? Gary V? I don't even think that guy was captured. I think they just gave him up. They were annoyed by that guy. He was always saying stuff like that. He was always giving unk wisdom.
If I go into the Kabul airport and it stank, I'm stealing something.
Mind of Mullah Omar.
Sadly,
Shia pussy got me acting strange.
Sadly, that view proved accurate. The Taliban outlasted us and our impatience. I just we've talked about this for like 3 or 4 episodes in a row now. The fucking way that these people talk about you and I and just the American people in general is just they're just we're children. They just they have an attitude that we are just like spoiled children who just don't understand what patience means.
Yeah, we're babies. It's kind of amazing that they are so generous as to let us choose our leaders the way that they do. I'm really grateful for that.
I'm always blown away with how generally pliant Americans are. Obviously you can look at COVID and go oh, well, half the country isn't wasn't wearing masks or isn't getting the vaccine, but everything else, well, if
it doesn't affect them personally, they're fine.
Yeah. Everything else, health insurance, just the price of basic goods going up long before the supposed inflation surge now. Every indignity that every American suffers, just totally fine with it. We're a people. The Angloids love being abused. They appreciate it. That's why half of them want to get back in there. But Americans will just be abused and convince themselves it's not happening.
And also, the list of things that they'll endure. The forever war in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
The premise of this article that there was some public outcry, some pressure to get us out is just wrong.
Yeah.
People had forgotten about Afghanistan. Nobody gives a shit about Afghanistan.
And it's a popular policy when people are asked
should we get out of Afghanistan?
They're like, shit, I didn't know we were still there.
Yeah, exactly.
They probably just assumed we should get out of there. Gone. Yeah.
I would like to get out of there.
And
but it's not. Nobody was clamoring for it. It was not an electoral issue. Biden didn't run on it. It was a discrete choice by an administration. It is not being powered by public opinion. The entire premise of the article is incorrect.
Americans don't like thinking about this shit ever. Never.
Because after the Soviet defeat in Afghanistan at the hands of the U.S.-trained and armed Mujahideen in 1989, training that was facilitated by Pakistan, we decided we were done. We could see the Afghan civil war coming. The only thing holding the disparate Afghan groups together was a common enemy. But that was not our problem. We were leaving. What is this, Philip Seymour Hoffman's character from fucking Charlie Wilson's War? On the way out, we stopped helping Pakistan in a key way. We ended security and economic assistance because of its nuclear weapons program, something we'd exempted before. So Pakistan, in its own narrative, went from being the most allied of allies to the most sanctioned of adversaries. That is why Pakistan threw its support to the Taliban when they started gaining ground in the 1990s. It could end a dangerous conflict along Pakistan's own unstable borders. And that is why a decade later, after 9/11, Pakistan welcomed the return of the United States and U.S. assistance. Blah, blah, blah. I'm just going to skip ahead here. It was not only the current president showing impatience. President Donald Trump announced that peace talks would convene in Qatar between the United States and the Taliban. But those took place without the Afghan government. We had caved on a long-standing Taliban condition. We therefore delegitimized the government we had pledged to support. The Taliban did eventually allow the government representatives into the room, but the talks went nowhere. As that painful process unfolded, we added injury to insult, forcing the Kabul government to release 5,000 Taliban prisoners. It's like, what are they like? This is the funny thing. Is like, what is Ryan Crocker really referring to here when he talks about they shut out the Afghan government? We let the Afghan government down. Like, who are you really talking about there? Like Kabul. They're talking about a couple guys in the the major city in Afghanistan.
All of the big opium dealers, all the big players, the guys at the co-op at the Holiday Inn in The Wire, basically.
That didn't matter to Mr. Trump. He was done with patience and just wanted out, whatever the consequences. He reached an agreement with the Taliban for that complete withdrawal, but left office before he could execute it. Enter Mr. Biden. To my shock, he embraced Mr. Trump's Afghanistan policy. We have betrayed our promises to interpreters, women and children, and others who are now trapped in Afghanistan, controlled by the Taliban. I fear many will lose their lives because of Mr. Biden's impatience. We had their backs until Mr. Biden decided we didn't. They will pay for it. Well, I mean, he's right about the last part, but like, we never had anyone's fucking back in that country. What the fuck? Like,
we were killing them. We were training death squads. We were fucking bombing hospitals. Like, we were stacking their fucking civilian bodies without any fucking concern for anything other than some nerd-ass coin bullshit that these guys all learned at in grad school and then applied not to win a war or to save lives, but so that they get a fucking promotion and a book deal.
It did not have to be this way. When I left Afghanistan as ambassador in 2012, we had about 85,000 troops in the country. The Taliban controlled none of Afghanistan's 34 provincial capitals. When President Barack Obama left office, there were fewer than 10,000 U.S. troops. And when Mr. Trump departed, there were fewer than 5,000. The Taliban still did not hold any major urban area. Now they hold the entire country. What changed so swiftly and so completely? We did. Mr. Biden's decision to withdraw all U.S. forces destroyed an affordable status quo that could have lasted indefinitely at a minimum cost in blood and treasure.
First of all, $300 million a day. What's that? Fliff, not even counting it.
Fliff like a sultan.
But fucking Afghans have been dying this whole time. The Americans stopped dying because we made a deal with the Taliban, but that was in exchange for them tearing the shit out of the Afghan army, which was getting their asses kicked and who was returning fire in their own war crimes. People were fucking dying.
I love the idea that like this was just infinitely sustainable. And you know what? Like, he's right. Like, that's what our government is set up to do. But like, what's so fucking $300 million a day. Overall, the entire cost of the Afghanistan war represented, as I've talked about before, between $2 and $3 trillion transferred from public coffers to 5 defense contractors.
Yeah.
That's what this is all about.
Yeah.
And they want that laundromat to just stay open.
Yeah.
Keep washing all that money. And it is so doubly infuriating. It's like almost a cliche to say it. Like, and I hate it. But like $3 trillion over 20 years to produce this result. And Bernie's Medicare for All bill is $1.3 trillion over 10 years. Like, if we had just spent that money, every single American could have health care. And the thing they always say is just like, oh, Medicare for All, that's going to cost $1 trillion. Like, what? Yeah, like as opposed to this shit.
Yeah,
but like that's spending money. That's spending money on American citizens.
We can't bomb it, which is the fun part about building a hospital.
If
so you get to strafe it with a fucking C-130.
Even if Afghanistan is what they say it is, which I guess is like the like Doom, like, wherever the Legion of Doom hung out in, the big underwater thing. Where they are just all they care about is planning attacks on America and executing them. Even if it was that and we're leaving it to let it go back to being that, and there was a 9/11 that just they happened at random every other fucking day, it would be infinitely more beneficial for America to just leave it at that and implement Medicare for all, way less people would die.
Like, and it would
way
also,
fewer.
It would
way fewer.
Like the net like lives saved versus lost is so massively weighted to like how many like American lives would be saved by Medicare for all versus anyone that may theoretically be killed in a terrorist attack. Which are like, let's be honest, you're more likely to get killed by a great white shark on land than you are to be killed in a fucking terrorist attack. And it's just like, also the media would just be like talking about these 12 Americans that died. Like, another reason I don't think people are going to like get up for this the way they used to is like 900 Americans died in Florida yesterday. 9/11 every day. That's what we've been saying here, and it's true.
And we have all collectively decided that because
that's okay.
we can't figure it out, because that would require a political solution, and our political system doesn't work that way. We're just going to vibe it out. And if we're going to vibe that out, I think we can vibe out some Marines.
And you know what?
No, yeah.
If we had vibed out all the people that died on 9/11,
that
we'd be way better off than we are now.
That would have been the time to do it. That would have been time to vibe out some deaths.
Yeah.
To get some fucking perspective.
Be a little stoic, maybe look the other way.
But no, it's because that happened, because it fractured that idol. We all went insane. But now, 20 years later, after everything that's happened, the collapsing crises and mounting contradictions and body counts and just the complete collapse of any kind of public interest, it's like, hey, what are you going to do? And that is the one thing we have in our favor to prevent another return to Afghanistan to try to avenge our fallen troops. It's just the absolute, just the deadening of the American people when it comes to death. And we'll see what happens. During the press conference today, Biden, he tried to do some Bush shit. He said, "We're going to hunt you down. We're going to get you." And it's like, okay, Grandpa. It wasn't
Did he say anything about the August 31st deadline at the press conference?
I had to leave before he was done. But at the end, they did ask him. They said, "Do you regret doing the withdrawal?" And he said, "No." And then he cut the thing short, saying, "I've got another meeting."
He's walking right into like a cryo chamber where they're jamming Vyvanse into his neck. I think when he said we're gonna hunt you down, that was also Mackinac. That's like we're just gonna see that there was a fire in Langley tomorrow.
When he said we're gonna hunt you down, he was talking about the black and tans.
Yeah.
He goes, let's see here. Even with a full withdrawal, we might have managed steps that would have protected our interests. Well, I mean, I think we did do that. The head of the CIA literally flew to Afghanistan to meet with the leaders of the Taliban.
Yeah, I think everybody.
It's weird how ISIS like just
right?
No, they didn't even come close to him. Weird. It's crazy how these things happen. Oh my God, what a lucky guy.
It's like
what a lucky little trooper he is.
I mean, I'm sure
escaped by the skin of his teeth.
I'm sure there was like something like some ISIS presence in Afghanistan or whatever. But like, try to remember the last time you even heard the word ISIS in the media.
Yeah,
it was like probably 5 years ago.
Yeah, this was the CIA is at sweeps week.
And guess what? Like, the CIA had a lot to do with the creation of ISIS in the first fucking place.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, like, and then out of nowhere, it's just like ISIS is back. ISIS K.
I'm just so.
It even has a new name. Like, what the fuck?
I'm so happy the CIA director got out safely, though. It was such a like nail biter,
Yeah, they had no problem getting him in and out of that country. That's for sure.
It's like all those people who come from America to Idlib to report on it. They're just narrowly making it out.
I really think that like part of this, like, sure, they whatever agencies are on the ground doing shit. It's even if these ISIS guys are doing their shit independently, they have an interest in trying to bring America in. The intelligence community has an interest in trying to bring us back in. But even if they have accepted, okay, fine, we tried to get Joe we tried to punk Joe out, but he was too strong. He had too much grit. Fine. Now we can try to get China in here so we can do Russia again. But I'm sorry, the Chinese aren't as dumb as us. They're not going to default for it.
No.
I just do not think it's going to happen.
I mean, we read President Xi's interview with Thomas Friedman last week.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
China, like, they're fine, like, eating a loss for a little bit. I could see them making a deal with anyone on Earth. If they really want to, they will have the first ISIS Gucci stores up. They'll be fine. They'll figure it out, and you're not going to animate Americans into it. I do think it's interesting. The week before this, though, a memo went around like the liberal media to castigate Spike Lee for talking to 9/11 truthers.
Yeah, I was just about to bring that up.
Yeah.
Because,
Very interesting.
Benghazi 2 just happened, and let's just say the intelligence community is in a vulnerable. They're feeling a little bit unseen right now.
Yes.
They don't feel seen at the moment. And all I'll say is I've been watching the local and national news quite a bit this summer, and the number of stories about shark sightings, not attacks, shark sightings at beaches in America lead me to a rather terrifying conclusion about what may be coming down the pike. But yeah, as far as Spike Lee goes, he's already agreed to re-edit the last part of his 9/11 documentary to remove all of that. And look, like the people he's interviewing are like the architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth, like the dumbest part of the 9/11 conspiracy.
Anybody who wants to talk about jet fuel and Building 7 and all that shit,
no,
shut the fuck up.
that's all
Who cares?
stupid. That itself, like him talking to those people, I think like just if you're making a documentary about 9/11, it's interesting to talk to those people.
How could you not?
But just as far as like what they have to say, nah, I've heard it. That's not the interesting angle on that. That's not the string you pull on and things get unraveled.
Let's talk about Saudi Arabia.
But right, exactly. But
or all the shorting of airline stock.
Yeah.
What was the deal with that?
Larry Silverstein's insurance policy, blah, blah, blah. So much stuff. Did you see that article that I found the other day about the Israelis they arrested?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. It's much weird shit.
Turns out there were 5 Mossad agents just hanging out across.
And then when they talked to them on Israeli TV, they were like, no, we didn't, like, we were just there to observe it. What's up, man? What's up?
And they had camera equipment and like 8 passports and like thousands of dollars in cash on them.
They got arrested and they told the cops, we're not your problem. The Arabs are your problem.
Yeah.
Weird.
But I do think the utility of that for the liberal media to do that is just to like preemptively just like, no, remember 9/11, remember 9/11, nothing, everything in the 9/11 Commission report. Don't even think about the missing pages. It's all perfect. Leading up to this, which is Joe bungling our retribution for 9/11. I don't really think it's going to work. Like this is not 2002. I mean, we talk about how the national security state was built around World War II and the Cold War forever. I think this current one, this sort of media apparatus is built around 9/11, and that obviously doesn't work on Americans anymore.
Well, that's the thing.
very diminishing returns.
I feel like, I mean, this Afghanistan withdrawal, the fact that it was allowed to go forward, because, like they might not be happy with it in the deep state, but they're going through with it on the say of this senile old man. So there clearly has to be some make lemonade out of the lemon situation. And it's got to be the only thing that makes sense. The only juice that's left is China, is in new Cold War with China, the Asian pivot that Obama was trying to start. Because at the end of the day, we have just exhausted our imaginative capacity to fixate on fucking terror. There have been too many people's grandma choked out in the ICU for us to care about terrorism.
Well, also that I think I just saw a poll the other day that showed there's a majority of the American public is way more concerned about domestic terrorism.
Right. Our enemies are at home. That's why we have to have a big enemy, somebody who can be up to it rather than just this amorphous bullshit.
He goes, so just with Crocker here, he says, now the Taliban hold all the cards. They will determine whether the evacuations through the Kabul airport can proceed. And whatever happens next, the image of this American capitulation is already etched indelibly into the world's imagination. What also is etched into the world's imagination? The Iraq War and the Afghanistan War. This is the image they're going to think about.
Yep.
If it is that the U.S. Air Force C-17 taxiing for takeoff from Kabul, surrounded by a desperate Afghan mob. Seconds later, at least one man falls to his death from the plane's wheel well. It is eerily reminiscent of the people who jumped from the World Trade Center on 9/11 rather than face death by fire.
Play a new song. Learn a new joke, something.
What a tragic and painful circle it closes 2 decades later. That's okay. And then it says here, Ryan C. Crocker was a United States ambassador to Afghanistan, Iraq, Pakistan, Syria, Kuwait, and Lebanon.
Did a great
serving
job.
both Republican
Amazing.
and Democratic administrations.
What an amazing job
He's
you've done, Ryan.
literally the fucking Grim Reaper guy knocking on the door from the memes. He's the actual dude.
Oh my God! When Ryan Crocker shows up, it is time to change out all your local currency. That shit is not working anymore.
Buy some
Oh my
gold.
God! This fucking
Buy some gold,
cocksucker.
dig up your fake passport, get the fuck out.
Yeah.
Ugh.
They should make Ryan Crocker ambassador to Florida. Clean things up down there.
Yeah, I think the Florida situation will require time and patience. Joe Biden?
Yeah.
Joe Biden stood strong. war in Afghanistan over. Everyone evacuated. We're out.
But don't worry, folks. We'll still blow up children.
Yeah, no, I mean,
That's the Biden guarantee. Kids are
We'll
going to
still
get blown
murder
up.
an entire family.
Yeah,
like literally people with visas. Literally people who are like figuring out how to come here because they were given visas.
it's like, look, we're still the United States of America, and it's just like, 13 soldiers, like, got to balance those skills. Just wiped out a whole family with a drone strike, and they're like, take that, ISIS.
Yeah,
Take that, ISIS-K. But I guess like the big thing now is that it's funny, like there's no more whining or complaining about it because like that airport, no more flights coming in or out of there.
Nope. Yeah, they closed the anti-annies. That's over. No more Hudson News.
The Taliban is doing a mass burning of Vogue magazine and James Patterson novels. So it's funny, like now that everyone's out of there, now the big thing to whine and complain about is all the inanimate objects we left behind. And I'm just seeing all of these like infographics about like all the shit we left behind in Afghanistan. And let me see this, bring it up here. Yeah, 22,000 Humvees, 150 mine-proof vehicles, 42,000 pickup trucks and SUVs.
could you imagine what those mine-proof vehicles could do in America?
Yeah, there's some suburban police department that could have used the M1 Abrams tank.
Yeah, I paid to be a deputy for the Naperville Sheriff's Department, and we always do expeditions to Passchendaele, and there are still mines there.
Let's hear 162,000 radios, 16,000 night vision goggles, 126,000 pistols. I mean,
This country doesn't have enough pistols. That's like one thing. We probably should go in to get those.
I'm just it's reading a clip here. It says like there's some asshole saying this from Kevin Meyer's latest column is sobering, but not even Biden's direst critics could have predicted that he would provide the Taliban with around 350 state-of-the-art military helicopters. State-of-the-art means like they were made in the 70s.
Yeah,
That's the state-of-the-art if you're talking about a Black Hawk. So he says, making it the Taliban, the owner of the world's fourth largest military helicopter fleet.
Damn.
I mean, I shudder to think. I mean, like they're doing the Ride of the Valkyries scene in Apocalypse Now to the west coast of the United States.
What did
next week?
What did the owner of the world's largest military helicopter arsenal accomplish in the same country? Like nothing. Nothing is a. I think it's nothing.
But it says here, ahead of any NATO country aside from the USA and behind only Russia and China. Indeed, Taliban now has 3 times as many attack helicopters as the UK.
I think they can take them, and I think, frankly, they should.
Yeah.
Biden also threw in a few dozen light attack aircraft, thousands of armored personnel characters, 55 battle tanks, 1,000 mortars, and 110,000 automatic rifles, plus 4 Hercules transports for good luck. Not so much lend-lease as wander squander. Wow, how sobering. And
these were not wasted before.
Yeah, they were doing us a lot of good.
There's nothing being squandered in this country.
Yeah,
that is
like
the main thing.
All that stuff there, it definitely helped the army that we had spent 20 years building up put up a real fight against the Taliban.
You know what those super transporters were doing? They were ferrying American fast food from Bagram to FOBs. It's literally what they were
essentially
doing.
Uber X's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
then, of course, we got to talk about this. Our boy, Representative Clay Higgins.
Yeah, you know that's right.
Oh, you know he mad about that military equipment.
I'm going madder than a gator at the dentist right now, thinking about all that precious military equipment that just going down the train.
Clay Higgins made probably, I'd say, like the best speech in American history today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like safe to say it's better than anything.
Yeah, speaking in front of the House Freedom Caucus. I mean, like Matt can interpret it, but he said, "Let me tell you what would be a good start for the people of Louisiana." Speaking, of course, about the Category 5 hurricane that just slammed into the Gulf Coast, leaving parts of Louisiana apparently without electricity for like probably the next couple months.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's indefinite. They
Like,
said
indefinite.
we don't know when it can come back, and if you left the state, don't come back.
Yeah.
Yeah. He says,
Start searching those help wanted pages wherever you ended up.
Yeah. Change your name. You know, maybe go to New York. Claim the name of a guy that you fought in the Korean War with. Find a fur model.
let me tell you what would be a good start for the people of Louisiana. $85 billion worth of military equipment that was left behind in Afghanistan.
What are you going to do with it? Like, what are you like? Is that where you, like,
Folks,
is it going to be like? I mean, last time when you guys euthanized fucking hospital patients who you couldn't transport from Katrina, I guess this time instead of a towel, you could use a fucking M1 Abrams.
Yeah. Yeah, just we could expedite the process of triage so much more effectively if we just murked people. Give every doctor and every nursing home attendant a fucking a Beretta.
He says, it would be good to start $85 billion worth of military equipment that was left behind in Afghanistan. And Matt, as you pointed out, like, if we had stayed in Afghanistan, it would still be there in Afghanistan.
Yeah, they're not bringing it over here to do what? Clear mines around Lake Pontchartrain?
Guys, we left Delta Force over there. Imagine how valuable they could be fighting the hurricane.
Yeah. I mean, I guess what? Like, you just have people live like in them, or like you make a house out of Humvees.
Chinook helicopters.
Yeah, you
know how many
just
people
stack
can
them
fit
on top
inside
of
there?
each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's modular living.
Yeah.
Maybe a hurricane is like the only condition an Osprey can actually fly in. Seems to crash any other condition at all.
Yeah, it's like only someone with 180 IQ who's read 10,000 books in the last month
Yeah.
can really see through the issues like
Yeah.
Ray Higgins. The other thing now that for all of the braying about what it I saw what's that guy? That guy's name, Richard Engel, like a fucking like on CNN saying that this is the worst capitulation of Western values in our history, which is like I didn't know Afghanistan was part of the West.
Well, the values are imposing them on other people. That is the actual Western value, is making other people act like you at gunpoint.
We've seen Peter Baker in the New York Times, just be like, I've talked to experts on the war in Afghanistan, who all serve on the board of directors at Raytheon, and they all agreed that this is the worst foreign policy decision ever made by a U.S. president.
Yeah.
And like all the talk about our stained national honor, all of the just like every single Afghan person who was killed like during the course of this evacuation, they're gonna ram that to the hilt. These 13 American soldiers. I mean, the funny thing about that is like, look, we all knew it was like. I mean, honestly, there's a lot of questions about that bombing in the first place.
Certainly.
About, they were like ISIS. They were like all like literally like, we're going to bomb this gate at the airport. And then they were just like, no, let's leave it open.
Yeah.
And then all those guys got through Taliban checkpoints. And then also, a lot of the Afghans that were killed after that bombing were just sprayed with gunfire.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, again, we're not hearing stories about their lives or like their families crying.
American
over.
excellence. You hear firecrackers, you hear a car backfire, and you just spray it down.
But for all of that, for all of like this, we've documented over the last like 2-3 weeks on this show, the unified media, just like the hegemonic point of view of just like slamming Biden for this, and just totally like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to America. For all their efforts, they couldn't stop it from happening. Biden, I just was listening to his speech on the way over here. He's just saying like, I'm not going to spend another 10 years in Afghanistan. All the people saying that like, oh, we could just continue to do what we're doing. He's like, I'm sorry, I'm not buying it. And he's had a lot of other dumb shit too. But for the most part, it's over. They couldn't stop him from doing it.
The bottom line is there is no evacuation from the end of a war that you can run without the kinds of complexities, challenges, and threats we faced. None. It was time to end this war.
So now they're complaining about all the inanimate objects we left behind. And then the other thing is all the dogs we left behind. Did you see that?
The heckin' puppers.
The heckin' puppers have been left in crates, all the service dogs that we left behind to be rounded up and killed by the Taliban. That's the really outrageous thing now. And the other thing is like this idea that like, I mean, the idea that there's still like thousands of Americans in Afghanistan who are just stuck there. And I'm just sort of thinking like, okay, like if that's true, like, I mean, I'd probably like hope they can get out of the country, but like, I mean, didn't they have like months to fucking just get out of Afghanistan? Like, what the fuck were they doing there in the first place?
I would like to know what everyone was doing there, honestly. It's just not a place you go like to vibe generally. You have a reason for being there.
So yeah, this is another really good thing. This is one of my favorite clips I saw this week. This is Glenn Beck was talking on the Glenn Beck show, and he was talking about like they are lying.
That is a lie. I have more than 240 requests from people coming into our email that are saying, please, can you help us get out? It's a lie.
And I just love the idea of like, if that's true, you're an American, like stuck behind enemy lines, like the Taliban is closing in. Email Glenn Beck's radio show. He's going to get you out. He's going to help you.
Colonel Sanders to the rescue.
Obviously, like in light of the drone strike, that look, he's still Joe Biden. He's still the guy he's always been. So, that's monstrous. And obviously, millions of people are about to be evicted into COVID with no federal assistance. All that shit's about to run out. Millions of people are going to be thrown out in the streets in this country. And the Biden administration's response to that is, we're calling on all law schools and law students to come together to come up with some ideas about how we can deal with this.
These are the procedural tricks that Merrick Garland, everyone was salivating about.
Yeah.
There's so much. I saw a lawyer who I know, to breaking my rule that all lawyers on Twitter are tied for worst lawyer of all time. This guy seems to know what he's talking about, but I was curious, what could the DOJ itself actually do? Turns out a lot. Turns out a lot. I just wanted to know all the things, and they could. There's something they could file under the FHA that it's disproportionately impacts Latino and Black communities. They could do that to throw a wrench in it. There's a shit ton they could do, but Merrick Garland's thing is just volunteer if you're a lawyer. Just find any eviction case in your city and just be like, hey, what's up?
So obviously in light of those things, it's weird. It doesn't feel good to me to see these things from Joe Biden and be like, yo, he's killing it. But I got let's go down the list of just the Irish Joe rundown this week. You got him falling asleep on camera while talking to Naftali Bennett, the Israeli PM.
That was pretty great.
I don't want to like him, but that was one of the best things any American president has ever done, hands down.
I'm just waiting for him to just pull out the jerk off hand motion the next time you start talking.
There was the New York Post had a photo of him checking his watch at the memorial for the 13 dead American soldiers.
He's had it. He's done. He's on the way out in every sense. So he's lost any of the handholds onto conventional behavior that have dictated politicians' decisions before now. He's a truly free man, the only one we've got in America.
Literally, he's got to figure, okay, I've got 500 hours left.
Yeah, right. When I die, I'm gonna just blow away dandelion spores.
Yeah, it'll be
my body's not even gonna last after a second my heart stops.
It'll be like how vampires died in the sun in True Blood.
Mm-hmm.
But no, this is the most Irish Joe of all. Courtesy of The Telegraph, the Tory paper in the UK. Headline, Joe Biden holds grudges and will punish Britain for Afghanistan criticism, allies say. British cabinet insider is quoted as suggesting the U.S. president looked gaga and described him as doolally. Joe heard that shit.
Yeah. Well, I thought this was interesting because about a day after, there was a thing leaked from the American side that the British kept that gate open.
Yep.
Yeah.
That the ISIS-K guy got through, which is interesting. And, I've seen Joe have better tricks than this. Still in his advanced age. And I do wonder what he has in store for the UK.
Seriously. It's maybe that 100,000 assault rifles we left there end up in Derry.
No, the article begins, Joe Biden, quote, will remember comments about his mental acuity emanating from senior figures in the UK.
I mean, not really. Come on. He's not going to remember them.
I mean,
what
he means is he told his granddaughter to tell him that they said that every day. Yeah. He got a tattoo of it, Memento.
He's like Memento guy. Yeah, it says
he turns over a photo of the Queen. Don't believe her lies.
Biggest drug dealer in the world.
No, you say that obviously he doesn't remember much, but obviously he remembers stuff from his youth and how good his dad drove a car. But I think even with his brain, you do remember vividly slights against you. People who have annoyed you, people who have insulted you. Yep. And Britain, they're about to face the wrath.
They're
about to face the wrath of a fully operational Joe Biden.
Yeah.
He's going to get into a Gundam suit and just drop kick the London Eye
Well, I mean, I have really enjoyed watching the British reaction to it.
That's the funniest thing of all, yeah.
Because like half that country is like, we should go back in. Like they didn't have anyone
They
there
left
for
in
the past 7
2016.
years.
Yeah.
And it is like, it's pretty unmistakable what it is to me. It's just them it's them realizing it's over. They're never coming back as a global empire in no circumstances. They're finished.
Yeah.
And going like, wait, one last one. Let us do one last one.
Let us do a little bit more boy play.
Yeah.
Let us put on our pith helmets and be perverts in the Orient just one more time. For old time's sake, come on. Like Tessio in The Godfather. For old time's sake, just one more time. No, get out. Nope, get in the car.
It says it came after cabinet insiders were quoted as suggesting the U.S. president looked at Gaga and described him as doolally in the wake of the fall of Kabul. I mean, we've been saying he looked doolally for years now. I'm like, what? Do we get any credit for that? Do we have any grudges held against us? No.
Well, we didn't partition Ireland. We tried when we were there.
It says the Brits have their view, but they should be careful. What's been said is offensive, and he will remember it. He actually has a long memory, a U.S. source told the Telegraph. It's always been his way that if somebody says something really bad to him or about him, he doesn't speak to them again. He does bear grudges. Boris Johnson should know that. The source added, the president is not Gaga. He actually picked up his game quite a bit since the campaign. Comments by cabinet insiders calling Mr. Biden Gaga were first printed in the UK, but were repeated in the Washington Post and read in the White House. It threatened to plunge the beleaguered special relationship to a new road. This special relationship, sorry, Britain, it's time for us to open up the special relationship here.
Yeah.
We're being poly now as a country.
Well, I mean, like, what are we going to get out of that relationship now? That is like, it's literally like being
James Corden.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah,
what
that's
we
what
have to
we've
show
gotten
for
from
us.
this fucking bullshit. Some pervert in a furry
Mouse costume.
doing
have
disgusting, thrusting sexual motions at innocent passersby, fucking menace to society.
There are probably literally millions of disgusting Americans who could do James Corden's job.
100%.
That guy who sang the Hamilton song about Fauci,
Yeah.
that should be James Corden.
Yeah. The guy whose dick comes out all the time.
No, he's better than James Corden. Pants Dude is like, it's far superior.
He should be
talent.
hosting the Tonight Show.
Yeah,
Get Jimmy Fallon out of there.
That should be the only late night show. Is Pants Dude?
Yeah. And every monologue he comes out, he says, "We have a great show for you tonight." And then boom, dick falls out.
Every guest just yanks down the basketball shorts. He's like, "Oh no! Oh,
The best thing.
Emily Blunt and The Rock! Oh! The Rock's looking at my wiener! Ah!
That's my favorite thing about Pants Dude is that he's like always embarrassed when his
Yeah.
pants come off, but he has like an 11-inch
Yeah,
cock.
he's got a huge dick.
I love him.
You should be excited.
The president will say publicly that everything is fine, that our ties have never been stronger. But behind the scenes, we are at a very dangerous moment. For him, Mr. Biden, it's my way or the highway. He added, it's incumbent on Boris Johnson to come to the defense of the special relationship. When you have individual MPs talking like this, it's harmful. But when the prime minister says something, it reverberates around the halls of power in Washington. Johnson needs to take dramatic action to secure the relationship. Biden... What is the dramatic action he's
Biden's
going
gonna come home and Boris Johnson's gonna be like in a French maid costume holding a pot roast. Like he's gonna liven the relationship back up. He's gonna bring the spice back. Yet there's nothing to be done.
They're the only thing they could do that would like make Joe Biden happy is give up Northern Ireland.
It's true.
That's
He would love
literally
that.
it.
That's what I'm saying.
Yep.
Read between the lines here.
Yep.
Read between the lines. What are they really talking? What's Joe? What is Irish Joe's revenge going to be, folks? We know during the campaign he was happy to have photos of him and Jerry Adams arm
It's
in
true.
arm.
Yep.
It's coming soon. He's calling up Boris Johnson, going, "Listen, Mac, why don't you tell your wife I won those medals down in Flanders?"
I mean, that's the thing is like, what is the UK's hand to play against us? Like, we've already seen it. It's for like Rory Stewart to call Joe Biden irresponsible.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that guy.
Yeah, that's really going to resonate in fucking America. They have nothing. They have no hand they can play.
They're Brexited out, so it's like, what else are you gonna do?
Yeah.
You already
Oh,
took your ball and went home.
Oh no, are you going to have a trade deal with Australia? Oh, that would really hurt us. Oh no, really sounds like you guys are in a jam. Why don't you join the EU and pivot towards Europe more?
That guy Rory Stewart, man, I haven't thought about him since our UK trip, but I just saw him back here. I just saw him on like just a video speaking on the news. Like, whoa, fucking Willem the fuckface back in the news. Jesus Christ! It goes,
Every time I see him interviewed, and I like have to remember who he is, I'm like, are they interviewing this man because like he's so sick? Local man has mysterious condition.
Yeah, he just wants to meet some politicians as his Make-A-Wish.
I like the photos he posted when he was campaigning, where it's like he's doing a disgusting smile with everyone, but the only black guy he meets, he just looks like he has like 40 warheads in his mouth. His lips are totally sealed.
It says, after Kabul fell, Mr. Johnson tried to speak to Mr. Biden by phone, but it took 36 hours for a conversation to happen. And another phone call a week later, Mr. Biden point blank rejected Mr. Johnson's request for a delay to the August 31st withdrawal deadline. I mean,
Sounds good to me.
I know we've been on this Joe vibing, Irish Joe, jacking on shit. Like I don't like doing it, but when I read stuff like this, it's just
I mean, the nice thing is he's going to do something every day where you're like, oh, yeah, he's been a piece of shit for like 90 years.
Yeah.
In a rare TV interview last week, he hit back at dissenting NATO allies, saying they had a choice to stay in Afghanistan despite the U.S. pulling out.
I mean,
Go for it.
yeah.
Facts.
Fucking drop the Bengal Lancers in there. Have fun.
There has been a torrent of criticism of the president from ministers and MPs over the botched withdrawal, which left British officials scrambling to get UK citizens out of Afghanistan. Mr. Johnson and Ben Wallace, the defense secretary, have pointed the finger at Washington in explaining why UK troops could not remain in Afghanistan. The prime minister told Parliament the mission in Afghanistan could not be continued without American support and air power. Well, the Taliban have a bigger air force than them now. So
Yeah, exactly. Good luck.
good luck with that. But
Piss them off enough and they're going to fuck your shit up.
armored cars and tanks and guns came to take away our sons, but every man must stand behind the men from Delaware. The man from Delaware. We support him.
Come out, you Mac and Jacks.
I do have one last reading series to mark the end of the war in Afghanistan. This one comes courtesy of Dan Schnurr. Dan Schnurr.
Are you sure that's your name, man? Are you sure you didn't like sneeze like 40 years ago on a job
you just
application?
went with it. Like, fine, whatever. He never had the heart to correct anybody.
Yeah. No one's taken him aside and been like, "Are you positive?" That's what your last
Just
name
go
is?
like, have you ever seen your birth certificate? Are you sure that's on there?
Writing in Dan Schnurr, writing in Jewish Journal, one of the best fucking headlines I've seen in a while. Will there be a BDS movement against the Taliban?
I've been trying. I've been like, it's hard, man. It's like really difficult. I mean, most people are like me. Like, that's the best place to get opium. It's the best place to get gemstones. And like dancers, shall we say?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you go on Etsy now, and I'm like, if you like all these Afghanistan sellers, there's great deals on night vision goggles and Black Hawk helicopters.
Yeah.
You can't get that anywhere else. But it's going to be, yes, like I think as a consumer, you do have an ethical duty not to support the Taliban by buying stuff that they're selling.
I was going to surprise my brother-in-law with a Bradley fighting vehicle. It was just going to be in the living room of their apartment one day.
So it says here, the boycott, divestment, sanctions movement and its followers might actually have the opportunity to do something good this week. No, really. The United States Human Rights Council, which usually devotes most of its time to criticizing Israel for defending itself against terrorist attacks,
That's exactly why they do that.
has called an emergency meeting to examine potential human rights abuses committed by the Taliban during their takeover of Afghanistan. I really love this because, like, right off the bat, he's like, the people who like their entire thing is human rights. I mean, usually they're full of shit because they're always talking about Israel. But like, just so happens that they found a human rights abuse that's actually real. Now we should take them seriously. There are already reports of Taliban militia ordering women to give up their jobs and to remain indoors, closing schools for girls and forcing young women to marry their fighters. Not to mention the persecution of ethnic and religious minorities and whippings, beatings, and other violence against Afghani civilians. Where it's like, yeah, like that. This is sort of the Human Rights Council. This is their beat. So, yeah, it would be bad if a country violently persecuted an ethnic and religious minority within its own borders.
Yeah. I hate to see it.
It would seem that this should be an open and shut case for a UN entity with the express purpose of promoting and protecting human rights around the world. But over the years, the Human Rights Council has dedicated the overwhelming majority of its time to Israel bashing, to the point where the Jewish state has received an official condemnation from the council on no fewer than 78 occasions since it was reconstituted in 2006, more than the rest of the world combined. I mean, like, why do you think that is, dude? And it's like, look, all of these resolutions are non-binding. I mean, Israel is also in the country more than any other country in the world that is in open violation of more UN resolutions than any other country in the world. But because America and the UK is on the Security Council, it'll never amount to shit.
Right.
So, I mean, you should be happy, dude. Like, it's just none of this shit matters for you. You can keep on doing what you're doing, keep on ethnically cleansing the West Bank, keep on bombing Gaza, keep on basically running like like an open concentration camp in front of the rest of the world. It's fine for you. It's just like they just have to like deal with like some non-binding statement that like, yeah, it's really bad that Israel is doing this.
That's the most annoying thing is when somebody who is just exercising right of conquest, ruling by the fucking sword, then also wants everyone else to tell them that they're actually nice and doing a good job. It's like there's some things you just have to give up if you're going to do that, and that's one of them. I'm sorry.
And he says, in other words, the atrocities, cruelty, and the barbarism that is a feature of daily life in Iran, North Korea, and Syria, just to name a few countries, is of less concern to the Commission's members than Israel's efforts to protect its citizens against the constant threats of violence from its foes.
But that's what they say.
Yeah.
Assad's doing that shit to protect his people too, in his mind and in his population. Like that has no. You are just deciding that they're in the wrong and that Israel is in the right, but the logic is precisely the same.
And also, it's like,
I don't know if I agreed with when we had the IRGC train American police.
Yeah, right.
when we make literally everyone in the House of Representatives, every senator, like every governor, go to the Syrian American Political Action Committee to pledge loyalty, make it illegal to boycott Syria. Don't always agree with that. The $3 to $4 billion a year we give every country in the world,
but also,
with
I mean,
no strings attached.
I like as you're just saying, like, he's like, oh, like, I guess you're saying, oh, like, all the atrocities and barbarism that Israel does, like, I guess, like, it doesn't matter when North Korea, Syria, and Iran do the exact same barbarism and cruelty. It's just like, well, dude, you're throwing yourself in with those countries. You're just saying they do it more than us.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and even that's not usually true.
It says the United States, the European Union, and Canada have all criticized the tribunal for its single-minded focus on Israel, as have two former UN secretaries generals and even the council's own former president.
Israelis have to act like the UN is the UN and Deus Ex. They have to act like it's like the single political entity on earth.
Yeah, the fucking UN is always fucking with my shit. It's like in the reality, it's like they act like UN is Eric Bogosian in Uncut Gems, but it's actually those two dorks who you won't let him get a jewelry shop. This fucking guy.
Oh, you brought your heavy? It's Canada. It's Justin Trudeau. But earlier this year, after the terrorist organization Hamas launched several days of missile attacks into Israel, the council launched an unprecedented permanent fact-finding mission against Israel. Oh no, there's a fact-finding mission that's been launched against Israel. It's like, dude, you're launching just like airstrike after airstrike into your own concentration camp. Also, like, someone's going to find out the facts. Oh no!
I mean, Israel is basically Israel is running fact-finding missions on American campuses.
That's true.
Yes,
find out if a 19-year-old said something that wasn't nuanced enough about Israel. You're fucking putting people's names and faces up and trying to prevent them from getting any fucking job. Fully funded by the Israel lobby. Fully funded by Israelis. If we're going to prohibit fact-finding missions, then everyone in Canary Mission, if they're an American citizen, should be imprisoned and deported.
Says, this fact-finding mission, the first time in the UN's history that a member state was subject to such an inquiry. The council also commenced an investigation into alleged war crimes committed by the Jewish state, and for good measure, called for an arms embargo to be imposed on Israel as well. I mean, you have your own arms manufacturing companies, but just the idea that like their endless supply of money and weapons would be cut off, or like even just slightly reduced, is like, no country in the world has ever faced such prejudice, such an unprecedented assault on their sovereignty.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we're like not letting countries get fucking access to vaccines or even being able to use financial instruments, let alone fucking weapons manufacturing.
It is exceedingly improbable that the Council would shift their focus from the imagined transgressions of Israel to the actual atrocities taking place in Afghanistan. But if leading voices in the BDS movement were so inclined, the Taliban's rampage of violence, misogyny, and hate-mongering could present them with an opportunity to demonstrate that their concerns about human rights violations are not just an excuse to engage in the continuous exercises of anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. If the BDSers decided to set aside their single-minded bias and hatred towards Israel for just a short period of time to focus their spotlight instead on the Taliban's daily outrages, it could help pressure the Human Rights Commission to make the same adjustment. Like, to what end?
Yeah.
This is the infuriating thing about this article, because like obviously the headline is moronic on its face. I mean, like it's boycott, divest, sanctions. Like, okay, we're gonna sanction the Taliban now. It's like I'm sure we already are.
Yeah.
Like it's like so, and then boycott and divest. It's like, okay, damn, like all these American corporations are gonna have to divest from the Taliban. I mean, as we've talked about for the last 2-3 weeks on the show, the divestment, the people fighting against that are the CIA. They're the only people who are invested in the Taliban or Afghanistan. And boycott, it's like, okay, there's nothing to fucking boycott. What are you talking about? It's like, at no point in this is there an ask for like what the BDS movement should do, like to as applied to the Taliban in Afghanistan, except for just only talk about the Taliban and never bring up Israel.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah, no, that's literally what they want.
It's like, just do it for a little bit, and then people will think you're being more fair-minded. But I really don't think that that's the idea. The idea is, how about you just talk about them forever and just leave Israel alone? Come on.
And like, yeah, whether you're for or against it, like the BDS movement is like is you know something that grows out of like a popular movement like led by like civil society in Palestine to be like, if you care about the Palestinian people, like here is something you can do. So like why should it apply to every other fucking country in the world? This is about Israel and Palestine. This is about Israel's treatment of Palestine and something that you can do to boycott just simply boycott products that are made in in the occupied West Bank. That's it. Their implied belief that Israel is so uniquely malignant in its behavior that human rights abuses everywhere else in the world should be overlooked or minimalized reveals their true motivations, delegitimizing and ultimately eliminating the world's only Jewish state. I mean, just in that sentence itself, it's just like sort of like, oh, I'd be lying if I said we weren't committing human rights abuses, but like we're not the only ones doing it.
We're the only Jewish state doing it, and that makes it okay.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, calling out the Taliban would have no impact on the core falsehood at the heart of anti-Zionism. The ridiculous notion that Israel's efforts to defend itself and its people against violent terrorism somehow violates the human rights of those committed to Israel's destruction. By those committed to Israel's destruction, they mean like a teenager in Gaza who just got his head blown off by a sniper. Yeah. But at the very least, it would temporarily cast some necessary attention on the genuine brutality and actual carnage being committed in Afghanistan. I'm sorry, like all of the violence that took place over the last couple of weeks in our pullout in Afghanistan, all of it, and let's say even times it by 10, or just like take every exaggerated account, like just assume the worst, assume it's 100 times worse than what we've seen, doesn't amount just in terms of pure body count, doesn't even match Israel's latest assault on Gaza.
Yeah. And also, okay, we're going to highlight the crimes of the Taliban. We're going to BDS the Taliban. What's that? Oh, there's really nothing to BDS. Well, I guess we got to invade again. Like, that's it. That's all we could do. Whereas the reason that BDS is a live current is because it is a way to intervene in a foreign country's human rights abuses without blowing anybody up, which is basically off the table in every other country because there are quote unquote official enemies. So our intervention, even sanctions are fucking acts of war. Whereas here you literally could just press a button and stop the fucking money from flowing in. And that doesn't require any fucking pallets of opium changing hands or C-130 gunships machine blowing up hospitals. You just press a button and stop fucking money from going in. And that, for a lot of people, is a very attractive proposition because it's a possibility of affecting affecting human rights at places where they're being violated as catastrophically as any place in the world, without signing on to a larger American imperial military project. And they're saying, no, you don't even get that. You don't even get that kind of valve. So I guess the only thing left we got to do is invade Israel. They won't listen to reason.
But yeah, I mean, it's the idea, like, whether it's America or Israel, and when you bring up the in response to this idea that the Taliban are killing innocent Afghans, sorry, that's terrible. The violent abuse of people anywhere in the world is terrible. But if you are an American, you can condemn it. Sure, we all condemn it. I would assume any decent human being would,
Right.
but your power to affect it is minimal. But,
Right.
if you are an American, you have a special moral obligation to condemn the actions being done in your name by a country in which is ostensibly a democracy and that you are an active citizen and participant in.
I mean, that
is why it is worse that Eddie Gallagher killed 12 Afghan children than if the Taliban did the same thing, if you are an American.
Right. And we're at the end of the day, they really just want us to give up the fantasy that we have any control over this. They just want us to accept that these relationships, these conditions are imposed on us, and it's fine. You know what? Whatever, we'll do that. But then to take the extra step and say you also have to not just accept your powerlessness, but to invest it with meaning. And to say, actually, I'm glad I don't have any power over this because it's good what they're doing. It's very, very good. It's the totalitarian instinct of anyone in that kind of power. The Israeli state is in a position now where it is able to imagine itself with this totalizing control of its own population, and then that indicates an ability to exert its influence everywhere else, just like us. I mean, they really are just like a concentrated version of the United States. And their demand really is just everyone's mind. They just want everyone to sign off, no matter what.
I will say this. If Israel's getting down about singled out, about not having 100% of Americans, maybe it once was, maybe you once felt that way, there is a group that loves you so much. They've attacked everyone in your region. I mean, everyone but you. ISIS.
Yeah. It's true. Hey, what about Iran? What about Syria? It's ISIS has that exact same opinion. They're much more pissed at Shia, at other regimes. They have no sweat. They have absolutely no sweat with Israel.
Yeah.
So,
Israel doesn't really seem to have any sweat with them either.
Yeah, exactly. Patch up their fighters sometimes too.
Let's close it out here. It says, the much more likely outcome is that while the Taliban destroys a country, terrorizes its people, and subjugates its women...
Destroys a country? What have we been doing the last 20 fucking years?
The BDSers will remain silent. It's because, look, Afghanistan and the Taliban isn't their fucking issue.
Yeah.
That's not what it's about. It's about you and the conduct of Israel towards the Palestinian people. I'm sorry we can't... Again, it's just before you talk about anything Israel does, you have to go down the list of not just current day historical crimes. You need to condemn Genghis Khan for what he did to Baghdad.
There are people in India who do that one. Hindu people like to do that one.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, you think we're bad? What about what Genghis Khan did to us? It's okay, man.
Every living descendant of Genghis Khan owes reparations to his victims.
Khan breaking.
The Human Rights Council members will express their concern or issue an ineffectual statement of admonition against the violence. Yeah, just like they do to Israel.
Yeah.
Ineffective.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Has the UN ever invaded Israel? What are you implying here?
Then both will go back to their more accustomed and hypocritical work of singling out the state of Israel and its people.
That's really sad.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, you're getting singled out because you are singled out among every other country in the world, in that you are allowed to do things because of the United States of America that no other country on the planet would get away with.
Yeah. So if you broke those kind of international laws that consistently and it was against American interest, you would be punished for it.
So they should be thanking their lucky stars that Israel is singled out in this way, because they're singled out because it's only a byproduct of the like huge and ridiculous like innate advantage that they have that allows them to, like I said, dispossess the Palestinian people of their land and sovereignty.
Yeah. Well, that's just it though. They have that, so they need a little more. They have that, they need more. It's never ever enough. It can't be enough. It's a combination of these people just sitting around in offices needing something to do, but also like, well, all right, if we've done this and we've sanctified this regime and we've gotten away with this for so long, then the next step is seeing just how farther we can push it, how much more we can dictate the flow, not only of policy, but of public opinion.
Well, I think the interesting thing here is like, it seems like insane overkill because like, as we've said, like despite like whatever, like even if it is a significant shift, it's certainly among young people in public, in like, American public opinion on like, is it cool for Israel to do this? Or like, who is the more sympathetic party in this conflict? Like, even if that change among young people like is significant, as we've laid out, it has absolutely no effect on like our government's policy. It's not changing a single Democratic politician from pledging loyalty to Israel. It's not shutting off the billions of dollars in money or the lockstep fucking support that we have over like, vetoing any resolution in the UN that from ever being applied to them. But I think like one of the reasons that they're so touchy about this, or like that they are interested in literally like investigating college kids or like, any professor of Middle Eastern studies that doesn't toe the line, is because I think they realize because of this special relationship that allows them to, conquer all of Palestine and subjugate every Palestinian within Israel's borders while saying that like, no, we're not occupying them, is dependent on American public opinion to a large degree. Mm-hmm. So that like any minute change in change in the direction of where the winds are blowing, they feel it acutely, because like, if American public opinion ever gets to the stage of like the public opinion of like, other comparable modern democracies vis-a-vis Israel, it could have a very devastating effect on them in the long run. Yeah. But like, again, like not, you're talking generations in the future here, but like that, I just think like, yeah, like any shift in American public opinion, and like I think especially among American Jewish people, like who are under the age of 40, who have a completely, unprecedentedly completely different view of this situation than their parents do. I think they kind of see the writing on the wall to a certain extent and are preparing for an eventuality in which they don't have like the implicit 100% support of the American government and only like 80% support of the American government and its people.
Yeah. We'll see. Hopefully somebody in Israel calls Biden senile. We'll see what happens.
No, it's interesting. I don't know. I'm sure like there's a lot of the right wing Israeli press is like, going at Joe Biden for like falling asleep in front of their leader. But honestly, like I have not seen a lot of like Israeli politicians or like the Israeli media condemning Biden for the Afghanistan pullout or attacking him. Maybe I just haven't seen it, but it seems like they are being a little bit more ginger than the British press.
Yeah. Well, that's because they're going concern. England is done.
Cooked. England is ran the fuck through.
Yeah. Like they are blown. They're just hanging out waiting to get claimed by the ocean again.
They're not even going to be able to hold on to Wales and Scotland for much longer.
Yeah. It's just going to be like Ray Winstone just roasting on an awful beach and somewhere.
England is a pile of piss. It's a pile of piss, right? But yeah, and then ultimately 26 plus 6. What does it equal?
It equals 1, baby.
What does it equal? 1.
In the name of love.